You gotta take control, life's too short. Get out of your head, make a better life instead. You gotta give it all your best. So put your hands up to the sky and live your best life, alright. Don't just let it go by, just try, oh my. Got only one life, got only this time. We gonna get it right. You gotta let go of those who don't belong in your tribe. So cut the bad out of your life. Yeah, do it once.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We're back with another episode of the Power Hour. Been a while, and this is volume 12. I'm here today with Jedi Joey.
Formerly Yoda Joe 93. If you guys don't remember, I know I did change my name, but it's been better profit, more me lately. So it was kind of a necessary change that I had to go through. One of my buddies from work actually helped me come up with it, and it's a lot more fitting because I'm like, Yoda's one aspect of the Disney canon that that Lucasfilm owns Yoda. I don't own Yoda, so had to make myself a Jedi to show, because with the Acolyte, which we're going to dive in today, they've kind of rewritten the way that the Jedi work, and I wouldn't follow that Jedi code, so I had to become my own Jedi. In fact, when you guys decide to join up with my membership, it's going to be called Jedi Joey's Dojo, so I'm going to be hosting a Jedi karate school. I'm going to do my own story eventually. I want to do a Terakasi movie one day where I become a Jedi Terakasi martial arts karate teacher and teach Jedi through the philosophy of martial arts. And it's not going to be bait and switch like the Acolyte. It's going to be real Star Wars. So
Yeah.
So it's going to be good stuff.
Cool. Well, yeah, no, I've been doing a lot more Star Wars content lately, and Joe is a big Star Wars fan as well, and he's been obviously doing a lot, hence Jedi Joey.
Yep, I have been doing a lot. I got Darth Vader tattooed up on my arm.
Yep.
So I've always been a big Star Wars guy, and so we've been talking Star Wars for a while, so we're excited to do this. So normally, on the flow, we normally talk about DC last time we came over. This time we're going to be talking all Star Wars. We know you guys have been waiting for our Star Wars episode, and here we're going to get to do it.
Yeah.
So how do we want to start? What's our main flow today?
So I guess I wanted to talk about just kind of Star Wars in general lately, but also just how I have a thesis. I have an angle I'm coming at this with.
Okay.
But what are your opinions on the current state of Star Wars?
The current state of Star Wars is broken. It's not broken that it can't be fixed, but it's broken because it's lost its identity. It doesn't know who it's for. And with Marvel, we talk about they have identity issues with, like, am I for the general audience? Am I for comic book fans? Who am I applying for? But with Star Wars, you have the old school fans, like myself, who loved, even when George Lucas was weird, he was the father of the Force, the fundamental creator of this universe. So even with the faults I have with him, he created some really good things in Star Wars. And so we have to give him credit for that. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that new leadership and new people should assign ownership of Star Wars and they should start doing new stories with new characters. I absolutely think they should. I think we should get new blood. Now, one thing that in the state of Star Wars that I think is important is I actually think that it's kind of funny how all the people that are wearing the business suits right now that are creatives behind Lucasfilm, the way they could fix Star Wars is there's actually an actor in Star Wars that is actually the reason that the sole person that I think could save Star Wars. Because he's the only one in this entire Lucasfilm studio that knows anything about what they're doing. And he proved it in Solo. And I met him in at Star Wars Celebration in 2017. Remember Sam Witwer? Who voices Maul in Clone Wars and Rebels? So there's this little interview out there, very exciting stuff if you want to watch it. I'll break it down for you here. But so he was in an interview where he was brought on as, like, not only does he get to voice the lines of Maul in the little cameo in Solo, but basically he was brought on because they wanted to consult him on the decision of how Maul would be like when we see him in this scene. And so when he's there, the guy's talking to him, and the guy's like, so in this scene, we're shooting the scene, Maul draws his lightsaber. And Sam Witwer, instead of going, oh cool, a lightsaber like most Star Wars people do, he begs the question. By lore station, since this is after Clone Wars, we have the knowledge that Clone Wars is a part of the Star Wars universe, it's canon, right? So
Right.
he has literally asked the question. He's like, well, which lightsaber? And they were telling him, oh, it's the one from Phantom Menace. Like, it can't be. It's broken in half. And he's like, oh, it can't be this one. And it's the Darksaber. Well, then you gotta explain this, this, and this. So he understood the lore, and the law of Star Wars better than anyone. He's even outlawed Dave Filoni.
Oh yeah.
So I think he's our guy. He seems to get it. Not alone, because he's an actor, but with the right creative people that understand. And he's the one that the reason they had the saber from Rebels showed up. It's because the last lightsaber he had, that's the last lightsaber he had before he died. So it makes sense that it would be the one to have.
No, I agree. Yeah, my view on Star Wars is that, I mean, I've always subscribed to. Do you remember when the EU was the main Star Wars before Disney took over?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they had like the levels of canon.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars as a franchise is so vast. I mean, there's hundreds of novels, thousands of comic books, couple hundred video games, tons of at this point, tons of live action shows, and hundreds of episodes of animated shows, and
now there's even more. Like, they're still making video games. They're still making these books and comics, and so yeah, it's multiple.
It all pulled over. Now the only difference really between the EU and the Disney era in terms of how Lucasfilm's like licensing story business works is now they've added the addition of usually 1 or 2 TV shows a year, and of course they're going to be coming back with more movies pretty soon, which we'll loop around to eventually. I've always kind of been in the thought process that like the core 3 are like the untouchable Bible of Star Wars, and then the prequels, you know, there's some inconsistencies, but it's kind of what George was going for. And then you kind of go to like Clone Wars and all the other shows as like secondary canon, and then the novels matter a little bit less, and comics and stuff, because those are a little harder to regulate and follow the canon for.
The way I look at it,
I think, I mean, I see a lot of people saying like Star Wars is dead in the Disney era, and I think to an extent that's true. Yeah. But I also just think it's more publicly getting kind of messed up, because I've been reading through some of the novels lately. And it's like, some of the EU novels are like, damn, this is so good, it could have been a movie. And then other stuff I've read, like, I read Dawn of the Jedi, which is kind of the same era. They're doing 25,000 years ago for that James Mangold movie. It's the same idea as Dawn of the Jedi. And that Dawn of the Jedi book was fucking garbage. So, I mean, it's not, like, unique to the EU, or to the Disney era, to have some garbage in there.
Yeah,
but now I think it's more easy to criticize and more conversation around it, since people take a little more legitimacy to like live action storytelling in the Star Wars universe, which I think is a fair angle to take it. But I think that's what
I feel like with the EU, you can pick and choose what works, and like there's gonna be stories that aren't very good, and then there's stories that are very good. So it kind of goes both ways. But I also feel like, yeah, like everything in the live action transition just isn't very good right now. But you do have, like you said, some of the books in the EU. There were simpler times. Like before the rise of Kathleen Kennedy, before the failures of Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, like, you know, Deborah Chow, all these names that are thrown out there. Yeah, they've all failed.
In fairness, you look at something like Heir to the Empire, which I think is a pretty solid trilogy. I'm almost done with Last Command. I got like an hour left on the audiobook. And there's a lot of like stilted and weird shit in there. Lots of like weird clone stuff. And it doesn't exactly match the current lore, especially when George went back with the prequels. Because in that book, they imply that Clone Wars was more just random people getting clones, not just Jango Fett.
I mean, if they were going to, like, you know, if you were going to, it's fine to expand the lore and to do different things with the lore, but it still has to make sense to a degree. And I feel like that's their first issue is there's no, Kathleen Kennedy has stated many times, and I still don't know how she hasn't gotten fired for this, that she claims that all the books that existed out there, even without it being canon, Dave Filoni said he's bringing some things from the EU and putting his own spin on it. But what's really interesting is when you ask Kathleen Kennedy about the source material for Star Wars, she says there are no books. She states openly, like, oh yeah, the EU, no, we can't use that, or we don't have any source material for our stuff. We're making everything up pretty much as it goes along. And it's like...
That's kind of a weird statement, especially with Thrawn kind of clearly taking more of a front page. Because, I mean, Thrawn, and I talk about this a bit in my Heir to the Empire video, like the first novel, but when I read Thrawn, I'm like, this is a character that wouldn't work on screen super well, but works well in a novel, because in a novel he can monologue, we can see his internal thoughts. In a movie, we can't have Thrawn drone on for 30 minutes or 15 pages like in a book. That's not how filmmaking works.
Agreed.
Where someone like Darth Vader probably wouldn't work as well in a book as Thrawn, because he just kind of quietly walks around blowing shit up and fighting Jedi and shit.
It's really too bad, because, like, you know, and we'll talk about this when we talk about more of the state of Star Wars throughout the video, but, like, Thrawn is one of those characters where he transitions great for a book, but you could make him amazing in live action too, because what Star Wars needs is a game changer type of villain. Look, I'm all for the Sith, and there are some great Sith Lord characters out there, and we definitely need another badass wielding lightsaber maniac out there again, but we're just not going to get to that peak Vader or Maul early era level again until they start getting their stuff together. But what we could use is, because the Empire has been ruined and they're tainted, Tarkin was menacing. I still think, I will give Disney one point of credit, that since you mentioned The Mandalorian, we talked about the different shows. I do think that with this Mando movie making money, we'll talk more about with the movies. I think Moff Gideon has potential to be their saving grace eventually. I think Moff Gideon...
Moff Gideon... I think Moff Gideon kind of has like the planning aspect of Thrawn, but he's also kind of more, you know, in the mud fighting.
Yep.
Like, he goes down to scrap with the Mandalorian.
I
like,
love
Thrawn doesn't leave the Chimera. He's on the bridge of the Chimera. He's making plans, and
I think we might still see more of him, because even though season 3 kind of closed the door on him, like you said, with the EU and even with the prequels, where they kind of, and Clone Wars, how they kind of touched into the clone stuff.
Right.
Did you ever finish season 3?
Of Clone Wars?
No,
Mandalorian. Oh no, I didn't.
Okay, so it basically ends with, quote unquote, his character getting killed in his own Maul-esque Mandalorian armor, but he was working on Force-sensitive clones. So it's and the Moff Gideon we see isn't sporting a mustache in the end of the show or the end of the season. So so some people believe that the clone is the one that got killed. Because why would you kill Moff Gideon when it seems like he's one of your biggest? That's really the only thing the Mandalorian has going for it.
I think one thing that would work, because I'm sure Moff Gideon or a Moff Gideon clone will show up in the movie.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that kind of works is, especially if they're drawing, because it feels like Filoni with that New Republic era stuff he's been working on, and Jon Favreau and all the other showrunners and directors and stuff. It seems like they really want to take from those early like EU novels and stuff, at least to an extent. And like the cloning stuff was actually kind of interesting in Heir to the Empire, even though they had to kind of like softly retcon stuff, because that's one thing is Star Wars being that they were like, it's all just one universe, man, nothing's not canon, everything's just canon, and it's a problem between Disney. I mean, Disney restarted the canon, but now it's going to become as convoluted as the EU. But one thing I loved about Heir to the Empire is kind of their clones. I mean, they didn't really show up till Last Command, but like Jorah Sabaoth is just a kind of like a normal Jedi who gets cloned, and then his clone's just this like deranged lunatic who's super powerful with the Force. Like, he's as powerful as the Emperor basically, but he's just even more unhinged.
I kind of hope that, like, in terms of, and I'm glad you brought Jorah Sabaoth, because I have a theory for you that connects to the future of Star Wars from here that Dave Filoni might have already planted into his Heir to the Empire stuff here already, even with Ahsoka as a show. Yeah. And so, you know how, like, you know, they're going to continue with Balon even though Ray Stevenson passed away. Right. Now, here's how you could do Balon without... because I think the saving grace for Star Wars right now, in terms of the villains, in terms of the storytelling, things that are almost not necessarily Vader worthy yet, but still at a level where you got intrigue, is, you know, you got Moff Gideon. But even though I don't think Ahsoka is a great show, has many faults. Right. I think Balon made that show, and I think one thing that I think made him so great is he's not a Sith, he's not a Jedi, he's in the middle, and that's why Qui-Gon worked so well in Phantom Menace, because he was a Jedi, but he didn't necessarily share the same Jedi beliefs as the other Jedi. And
right. Well, he was on a different vibe. But keep going on what you're saying.
So with Balon, so with Balon, I think what's so interesting is he's so cool, and they're well, I don't love everything in Disney Star Wars. I am a fan of Dave's work with the Mortis arc if they can continue to use good stuff with it. But I also know that they've been talking about casting, and they were going to bring in Abeloth for the next season of Ahsoka, and so that would be pretty interesting. And we know that Balon's going to come back, but people are like, well, how are you going to work that with recasting? And a lot of people think Rey was great, which I think he was too. But I'm not above the fact that I think recasting could work really well. And here's what I think they should do, because you have his apprentice, right? You want to make Star Wars interesting again. You want to do something cool, even if this won't save Star Wars, but let's get some projects that are still excitement and still build. We still need to get good Star Wars sometimes,
right?
With some ideas. There's some things in Star Wars that there's potential, and maybe we could just sprinkle in a couple. Like sometimes with Marvel, right? You might get a couple projects you like, even though it's not a very good phase. At least there's a couple projects you like.
Yeah, they had some stuff sprinkled in there.
So I'd like to see Star Wars do something like that. Maybe not every project is a hit, but maybe there's still enough where there's still engagement. Maybe you just tune in for certain projects. Maybe you're a Star Wars fan, but you're not a fan of every project. Maybe we just say, okay, the Acolyte's not for me. They're doing this for this set of fans. That's fine, because now I get to watch this. And maybe these Mandoverse stuff is more geared toward the old fans and get to focus on that. And so what I was thinking is, with your Heir to the Empire thing, how would you feel about Balon getting recast like they're planned to do, but when he comes back this time, because we know he was looking for the father and everything, they transition that into he loses his mind thinking he's looking for the father, gets manipulated by the mother, which is Abeloth, and becomes the new kind of Joruus C'baoth. In a way, it got kind of crazy, and that's why they recast him.
Oh, yeah.
But then, here's what you get, because you need a villain. Thrawn's not cutting it in this universe right now unless they fix him. What I'd love them to do is, we have so much potential with this apprentice being Shin. What if Shin gets possessed by Abeloth, and Abeloth uses Shin's body as, its vessel?
Right.
So to kind of show her really evil. They clearly have the actress, they clearly like using the actress. But she's not good enough by just a Padawan just by herself. There's no one to really teach her. So it's best case scenario for her to get going looking after Balon, and then she kind of becomes possessed. Sure. And Star Wars did zombies in season 1, which was kind of goofy and kind of silly, but with the right directors, you could do horror in Star Wars and succeed if you get the right people involved and make it seem scary. I think Abeloth is it's a deep cut if they pull it off, if they do it well. It could be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to address a couple of your points, I think my biggest problem with Thrawn is, who else is a really interesting character, on par with Thrawn in the books? Maybe not on par, but he's really interesting. Admiral Akbar. What does he do in the movies? He screams it's a trap, and he kind of sits there pointing.
He's a meme.
That's the problem.
Yeah, he's a meme.
That's the problem. Is Admiral Akbar is a cool and interesting character when you're allowed to dive into him, and but there's not much in terms of the grand storytelling that a movie has time to go on a tangent and have Admiral Akbar explain his military plans, which is what Thrawn's character is. Thrawn isn't Darth Vader. He doesn't murder people directly. He might execute an officer if they really mess up or something or whatever. But, I mean, he's a very different, more level-headed villain than, the Emperor or Darth Vader, who's very cinematic. The problem is, I mean, other than him sitting in the Chimera and saying, I want to do this, this, and this, I'm tricking these people. That's what Thrawn's always been, so I don't understand how you bring him to screen. But then kind of, as my other point, another character I think fell flat in the movies and works so much better literarily is Qui-Gon. Mm-hmm. I think Qui-Gon, Liam Neeson did fine and stuff, but Qui-Gon, have you read the book, or you should read the book if you haven't? It came out a few years ago by this lady Claudia Gray. You're
talking about Master and Apprentice?
Yeah, man.
I'm a huge fan of Master and Apprentice. So when we talk about Star Wars backstory, I listen to that one on Audible. So I listen to the voices and everything. Two of I think the best Star Wars books that are not getting the appreciation that I stand by, that have the best characters in them, are Dooku Jedi Lost and Master and Apprentice. And what I loved about Master and Apprentice is it explored a dynamic to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's relationship that we didn't know, where Qui-Gon's kind of a dick to Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan, like, yeah, he's treated as kind of like, we look at him as our main hero now, but he kind of is a little bit of a headstrong, problematic Padawan.
I think what I liked most about Qui-Gon in that book is that he's like, he really wants to be like fair, but he has like that underlying obsession with the prophecies, which in the Phantom Menace they frame it as the prophecies are just kind of like every Jedi knows them, every Jedi he's like, well, this is gonna happen because the prophecies. But if you read Master and Apprentice, like half that book is like everyone's like, Qui-Gon, you gotta chill on the prophecies, dude. And then at the end of the book he becomes, after he has his kind of vision that comes to pass, he thinks he might be the next prophet of the Force. And then you kind of see that, and it kind of explains why when he finds Anakin, who he thinks might be the chosen one, he kind of like immediately drops Obi-Wan and stuff. Like, they're good friends, they had a good relationship eventually, but Qui-Gon has kind of that obsession that, you know, in part he thinks is wise because he's following the teachings of like ancient Jedi, but you know, in reality is kind of teeters him over to the dark side. Like, he's got that like obsession for like the power of the knowledge, and he doesn't even know that he's being like kind of low-key heading in that Sith-y direction, which I think is kind of an interesting like framing for the character.
Yeah, I think that people don't cover enough too much of the gray with Qui-Gon, and I think that book definitely depicted that in a really good way, where you could see where the gray was, you could see the cracks in the character, and that was kind of...
The other thing I like is like Qui-Gon he's not like I'm a dark Jedi or I'm a gray Jedi. He doesn't like announce that. He just kind of subtly almost starts to falter on that.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely something that they did well. Like, you know, it is kind of sad that while we look at Phantom Menace, you know, it's the only time we see him in live action, other than, of course, the Obi-Wan show, which
had a quick cameo.
Yeah, he is very... The people that worked on that book really understood his character better than I think that probably a lot of the writers trying to write Qui-Gon in Phantom Menace did. Like, it just feels like they did some good things with him. They focused more on the prophecy. They didn't want to... I think it's because you look at the timeline, Master and Apprentice is before Phantom Menace.
Right.
And I think maybe he became different towards Phantom Menace, where you see kind of... He's still very against the Council's ways of things, but he gets kind of crazy into the prophecies because that's what he think is... As a Jedi, that's what he chose to focus on because that's where he's kind of struggling. Where I think when he's trying to be a master to Obi-Wan, they show you in Master and Apprentice that he really is... he really even struggles, like... And not part of that is because Dooku pretty much left him out to dry as a Padawan, and so like then when he becomes a master, it kind of changes.
Because Dooku kind of leaves the Order shortly after that, and then in that novel he also has the other apprentice, Rael Averross, who's Dooku's other apprentice, who's like kind of also got screwed over by Dooku, but more so it also kind of shows some of like the corruption and not corruption but just like ignorance of the Jedi, because they like took Rael too old, and he's like this old depressed Jedi who's just like fucking chicks and smoking cigarettes all day.
Oh yeah,
I love that. That's one thing I love. Like Rael Averross, he's never had any sort of like even illustration publicly released, but that he's one of my favorite Jedi because dude's just like, I don't fucking care. He's just like a trucker Jedi. He just like wanders around and he's like fucking chicks. It doesn't really matter that much, the rules.
Yeah,
he's a badass. He needs to be in like Tales of the Jedi if they do
some of those stuff. Yeah, some of those would be cool.
Did they do 2 seasons of Tales of the Jedi, or just Tales of the Jedi then Tales of the Sith?
They did Tales of the Jedi and then they did Tales of the Empire. They've not done Tales of the Sith yet. I think they should do Tales of the Sith because there's a lot more interesting stories to tell in the Sith.
I think that'd be a good way to like pad out. Like, I would love to see like Tales of the Sith and make it like maybe more of an anthology than like Tales of the Jedi, and have him like kind of just like follow like the Sith that were kind of like working underground, and
I want them to focus on Sith that we didn't see. Like, even though there's more stories about the characters we have, I would like them to focus on characters that we haven't seen except for like books. So like, do stuff with Bane. Do stuff with Riven.
Yeah, because Bane is canon to the standard universe because they put him, or the Disney universe, because
they put him in Clone Wars.
They put him in Clone Wars, and then they kind of got stuck with him because I doubt they wanted to. That's the one thing is they said, well, we'll make Clone Wars canon because Clone Wars is great and added a lot of good stuff, and you know, I don't disagree with it. But then they're like, now they have to like work in a bunch of EU canon, which I think is kind of funny. You know, he referenced a lot of stuff in that.
You know, even though I hate the movie, there's a lot of Riven references in Last Jedi. Like there's a lot of stuff in Luke's temple that connect with that, which I think is kind of cool.
I like Rian Johnson as a director in everything.
He's just bad
but
for Star Wars.
Last Jedi. I think part of the problem was he went a little too far into going original, and I also think some of the forced stuff kind of fucked the movie over, because what he was trying to do is the movie
FaceTime stupid things
like the Porg and stuff. What he was trying to do is he was trying to do the Empire Strikes Back thing where Rey separates to meet Luke and the rest of the gang are off on their own mission.
What I don't understand,
like Empire Strikes Back, because Luke goes to Dagobah and the Falcon crew have hijinks and end up on Cloud City. The problem is the Luke and Rey stuff was kind of a misfire because I don't think anyone liked where they took Rey, and then they could not. They like Disney, I think, since it was so rushed because they only had 3 years basically from write script, hire, shoot the thing. People's asses are in seats. Like that's not a long time,
right?
My 2 years.
My biggest question for you with Last Jedi, if you were to improve Last Jedi, one thing I wonder about you with Luke, they tried to go for Luke, you know, somebody who slaughters or attempts to slaughter their grandson.
Right.
I feel like the best route to go with this situation for Uncle Luke would have been after that moment, instead of being a hermit and hiding out and doing everything, you have Mark Hamill who played Joker. I think you just go full Sith with Luke Skywalker at this point. They did it in was it the Dark Empire comics, and then what was the other one? There's another story that they did it. Shadows of the Empire, is that what they did it?
I agree. I don't mind the idea of Luke in the movie where he's like, I quit being a Jedi, I'm a hermit after what happened, where he miserably failed to restart the Jedi and then became evil like his father, because like we were talking about earlier, like Return of the Jedi at the end, he knows he can't beat Darth Vader. He's just like, I give up, but you know, become a good guy again. So Luke very much like, he was never about power or lightsaber fights. Luke always relied on kind of his morals and heart. So losing his nephew to the dark side is like the biggest blow. So I understand why they took him that direction. I think it more should have been almost like, I think what they should have inversed instead of, they should have almost had, you know, because Luke learns a lot from Yoda in Empire, right? So I think Rey should have had to go there, and she thinks she's going to learn a bunch and blah, blah, blah from Luke. And I think maybe the movie should have been her almost taking on a Yoda role. Not like teaching him the Force per se, but like being like, come on, dude, get back on your path. And then he's fucking shit up in Episode 9 is what I would have done.
Yeah, I would have had him definitely been alive in Episode 9. Because killing him was the stupidest thing they could have done.
I don't mind where they started him in Episode 8. What I mind is where they just never they never got their footing with his arc.
Well, here's what I don't understand. Okay, so if we're going to do the Luke is one of the greatest heroes and is one of the best people, he had that X-Wing sitting there, okay? Now, I get there the whole Luke is probably the same age that Obi-Wan is in A New Hope. But at least Obi-Wan went and confronted Vader and accepted his fate. He didn't Doctor Strange this shit and do some meditation like Multiverse of Madness, like body transfer, younger version of myself. If you're gonna make weird. One of my problems with the sequel trilogies is outside of the first movie, and even though there are a couple that are decent, there is no actual good. Last Jedi doesn't have any lightsaber fights, and even though you have Kylo Ren and Luke sort of stand off, Luke's not really there. The sabers don't touch. They don't clash. Too. So it's not a duel. So to me,
you know what I thought would have been a good inverse. Thinking about it now, So Luke kind of starts, like, he's not willing to go back into the action. Like, he's still like, I've caused more harm than good. I created this monster. What if Luke doesn't confront Kylo, so instead Leia tries to confront Kylo?
Yeah, and that would have happened.
She gets killed, and then Luke is like, in Episode 9, he's like, well, now I gotta kind of come back and fix it, because then you're taking the main character of the original Star Wars, giving him a new arc. He failed, so he becomes a hermit. Rey tries to bring him back, and then she kind of fails, but then Leia kind of sacrifices her life to get Luke back in the game.
I like that. The only problem that we have with that issue is because of Carrie Fisher, the way that she chose to do her life. There's no way you're going to get her in good enough shape to do all the Jedi stuff for a scene. Right. Unless you had to CGI her completely.
Right, and then the problem, too, is even if she's like, I'm not going to fight you, we're not going to do a saber fight, and you just have her get killed, well, then that's derivative of what they did with Han Solo in Force Awakens, and all of a sudden you're rehashing.
In that movie, you'd have to rewrite earlier portions of that movie, because in that movie, there's a scene where Kylo Ren has a mission he has to do that involves killing his mom, and he can't do it. So, how do you convince him that he can actually... Do you think he goes evil enough at that point? Because that's my other problem with the sequel trilogy. We were talking about Luke. I think Kylo Ren, especially with an actor of Disney's biggest wasted potential, I think, of everything, and it's not necessarily the thing that screwed them overall because they've had multiple problems. I think people complain about the issue with Luke in Last Jedi. The issue of the sequel trilogy, if you look at Force Awakens marketing, they have a new villain that has the mask kind of angle for Vader.
Yeah.
But he's marketed like Maul was for Phantom Menace.
Which, you know what's interesting, too? They really like to... They like to bring the fucking mask motif back, because I haven't watched The Acolyte. I'll probably watch it when it's like finished and when I make a review on it in like 5 years or something. But they have the fucking masked villain for 3 episodes. Didn't they just do that in Ahsoka too, where they're like, "Who's this clown?"
Yeah, and so here's the thing:
they didn't pay it off.
In Ahsoka, they didn't pay it off. What I will say is, I don't like The Acolyte. But I'll tell you this: my favorite thing about the Acolyte show so far is the Sith, because the Sith is actually freaking dope. So like,
I've heard cool things about him.
So he gets the best episode of the show, and it's still a bad show and still has problems. Is episode 5, because they finally fulfilled the thing that people wanted to see forever, which is they have all these Jedi, and they finally show Jedi getting fucking massacred, like just.
It is kind of crazy that Disney's owned the franchise for like 12 years, and this is kind of the first time they've folded and said, we're going to try to give you some prequel-like action, which people really wanted.
And I will say that the fights don't come anywhere close to like Phantom Menace level, but what I say is like, it's probably the best thing. Like, I thought Ahsoka had some problems with a lot of their fights and a lot of the other shows. I think it's probably the best Disney lightsaber fight we've ever gotten.
Nice.
Like, they got the guy from Squid Games in there. He's pretty good, but this guy that plays the villain, a lot of people joke him. He's kind of like he looks like kind of a more buff. He kind of reminds me of like Ezra Miller, but like in like a tough, like cool way. And like he, the dude that I don't know if he's a stunt actor or where they get him from. He's got martial arts talents,
right?
So they can totally pull the Maul thing. So like they got Daphne Keane in there playing some sort of alien Jedi. She kicks fucking ass. Like she's in there, like she holds. One of the criticisms I have is, just like in Phantom Menace, Palpatine's biggest lesson was, he wanted Maul to kill both Jedi, but Maul loses being underestimating the Padawan. So he beats the Master, but he loses to the Padawan, right? Mm-hmm. So the Padawan puts up a better fight than the fucking like regular Master, right. And so I'm like, but how does this happen?
Well,
when like you have like these Padawans, like she's super skilled. She trained Daphne Keane. She plays X-23. She's pretty badass. She's very cool. But like these other Jedi are putting up a fight. They're decent, but like, and Soul has a good battle with him. But like it was cool because the way that they framed the fight, this is probably the most ruthless Darksider we've seen yet. Because there's scenes where he'll it's still Disney, so it's right. But like
right.
But like he's stomping throats and like crushing like heads and like doing side kicks, like mad martial arts. Like he was even going even crazier than Maul was at times. Like Maul was doing butterfly kicks and respect to Ray Park.
When is that show done?
We got 2 more episodes left. I think episode 7 comes out tomorrow, which I'll probably do a live stream for it, just because my fandom will probably want to see my reaction to it.
Right.
Because I'm going to do a review today for the 6th episode, and the 6th episode was I thought this show couldn't get worse. It found a way to get worse, and it's the worst. You remember that stupid scene with in Last Jedi where Kylo Ren is FaceTiming with the Force Rey, and he's like shirtless? They did that, but this guy's like, the villain is like completely naked, like in the water pool, and like is talking to somebody, because the whole idea of the Acolyte is that our Sith is looking for a pupil. And there's this twist with these twin sisters that are played by the same actor, or actress, which is actually the girl that you think was basically the wife of the lead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. So the two of them, they do in episode 5, they do a swap where the bad twin goes with the Jedi and the good twin goes with the Sith, and the Sith is trying to like talk to her and whatever, like get into her head and whatever.
Oh, so wait, so the good twins or the bad twins kind of like changed her mind, or they
they were both in the same scenario, and so the sisters fought, and so they switched clothes and put them in opposite positions. So one of them went with the Sith and the other one went with the good guy, but the Sith wanted nothing to do with the with his former apprentice, because she was just full of revenge, and she doesn't fit what our villain is looking for. And so he thinks that he can take because the good guy is actually a former Jedi, and the show's trying to frame the Jedi in the light that the Jedi are actually the bad guys, not the Sith.
Right.
But kind of proving how all the mistakes the Jedi did.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious. I think, honestly, once the show's done, I'm going to grab that shit off the Pirate Bay.
I thought there was the first 2 episodes weren't bad. I liked the martial arts aspect they pulled into it. Like, there's some cool hand-to-hand combat stuff, which you don't see in Star Wars very often. Yeah. It's not the best I've ever seen. It's not fucking Cobra Kai or some shit, but like it's pretty cool. Like how they use the Force and use Force. I still think I could do it better. Like I still think I could make a movie and make Star Wars and like if I'm doing a martial arts Star Wars movie, I'm like round kicking lightsabers into dudes' chests and like side kicking like I'm going for the extra extreme shit. Like they don't go for like as cool as I think they could. And I thought they made that mistake in like when they said the whole thing about Ezra has the Force, but like he doesn't need a lightsaber. Right. I thought it was weak. Like, dude, I would have went fucking Dragon Ball with that shit. I would have had him like throwing Kamehamehas and just like it's just like, come on. Like, I feel like you have Star Wars, you have these budget, you have all this money. This show costs $180 million to make. Money that Obi-Wan should have gotten to pull off some of the shit that they did. But it's like, I don't understand what the budget. And they promoted this show with the chick from The Matrix, Trinity, being a badass killer. She's killed right away. They bring her in and she's gone.
Hey, she'll probably get a good flashback at some point or something.
Yeah, she's gotten a couple. Like, it's just weird because like this show is just it's just weird. Like I don't and like the Ki-Adi-Mundi thing, it definitely is damaging for people that he's in the show. Like, oh, I didn't tell you that. So it's not just that they retcon the fact of what he said, right?
Right.
He's in the show and interacts with like knows that the Sith are around. Like there's a scene where he's on like the hall chat with these other High Republic Jedi, because if you go to the Wikipedia page, they changed his birthday. They went in and said, oh, he's alive from this time to this time.
Right.
And then he shows up and he's looking all pink, looks different than we ever seen him, talking with the other Jedi and revealing that they're hunting a Sith. Like he knows. Like we talk about there's lots of retcons in Star Wars. It's pretty bad that he's like, if they want to do the whole Sith thing, I can believe, because you know the Jedi weren't always honest about everything. I can completely believe that maybe a Sith could have slept through the cracks and whatever, and I could have bought that idea. The fact that he like openly he hasn't confronted him.
Did they have a birthday for him in the canon, or was it just an EU stuff and they pulled it over? That's what I'm not sure about, because I heard they changed the birthday, and I'm like, well, if they haven't confirmed it, I mean, him having a birthday in some fucking Dark Horse comic shouldn't really matter.
Well, we know
the flow of a mainstream television.
We know for a fact that, from what I understand, High Republic is 100 years.
Right.
Before Phantom Menace.
No, it's 300 to... I mean, there's like a whole era. Mm-hmm. I understand from the books, and I've only kind of read into it slightly, because I kind of might try some of the High Republic stuff just because Claudia Gray works on it. Who did
There's a cool
the Master and Apprentice.
They just
book.
revealed in episode 6. They just showed that they have the character from the book in the show.
Oh.
That's got the lightsaber whip.
Oh yeah.
She's got the purple one. She's kind of cool. She's not,
Yeah.
She kind of reminds me of, like, I'm gonna say it, and I'm sure that there's people in Marvel that crossed over to Star Wars before. She is definitely a Gamora type character lookalike. Like, I feel like they're trying to just be like, hey, look, it's Gamora in Star Wars. Like, she's got that edge. She's got
kind
that,
of
like,
an edgy.
but she definitely doesn't have
Sure.
she definitely doesn't have the characterization of the actress that played Gamora. Like, you can tell, like, they picked someone who's, like, low level. But yeah, I think it would be interesting to see if someone who reads High Republic, if they like the show more, or if they, like, still have a lot of problems with it. Because, like, I know the High Republic. I've read it. I think most of the High Republic, for me personally, is not that interesting. I'm always gonna be Old Republic.
I don't know if I think they like simultaneously released like the first issue of the comic with the first novel, but I read like the first graphic novel for the High Republic like when it came out, and I was like,
well, what I don't understand about High Republic is they're showing High Republic showing the height of the Jedi's abilities, but like what I don't understand about High Republic is the Jedi when showing the height of their abilities. From what I understand, they just like kill bugs and stuff. I don't remember any Sith that they encounter in the novels, and I get that the point of the acolyte they need to make that for the show.
A lot of it is, I mean, George Lucas, even up to like the Revenge of the Sith. I mean, he was fine with like small little expansions, but it wasn't really until the Clone Wars that like main lore affecting expansions would happen within television and film and stuff. So and even he didn't really fucking care about the books that much, George Lucas. So he'd be like, "Oh, there hasn't been a Sith in 1,000 years." Like, you know, it's bound to contradict something, and I think that's part of why you're having issues with like that. I don't understand when Disney conceptualized High Republic. I think High Republic's a good idea, in part because it's like, okay, move away from the Skywalker saga. You can do new stuff in Star Wars.
Yeah, I will say that new characters are good. It definitely has ideas on paper that are cool. I just think they went about it in the wrong way, and I think and they do the bug thing in the show. Like, you do see the bugs get killed, like in the High Republic and stuff, and they're kind of tough to fight and whatever. But like, maybe they should have steered away from this Sith idea. But like, I don't know.
I think the stupid. Joe, I got an idea.
Okay.
When Acolyte is 100% finished, I'm going to watch the show end to end and make a video on it. After I finish the video and watch the show, I want to have a conversation with you on the finished Acolyte show, and we'll shoot the shit. And we should talk about compare notes. I think we should compare notes.
I'll be curious to see, because I'm gonna be making videos for the final 2 episodes. So I definitely think I still have to make my video for episode 6. So I'll definitely do that episode.
Yeah, I definitely think like in terms of like Star Wars, and I think the nice thing about Star Wars is there's a million different types of Star Wars fans because there's so much niche shit within the giant franchise.
And I think it's cool that you can apply it to many different people.
So I'm interested to like see how our notes compare, because I feel like you really keep on the cutting edge and stuff, and for me, like, I don't really keep up with the new stuff as much. I'm like, this novel from 50 years ago.
See, to me, I'm just very big into, like, I became a Star Wars fan. Star Wars was my first fandom when I was a kid, and so like,
how did you get into Star Wars?
I've been into Star Wars since I was literally a kid, and like my godfather became a cop because he was obsessed with like the protecting and serving of the Jedi, like everything, and like so. He used to collect Star Wars figures and like was like super cool. And like my dad was into it, and like so I got into it, and because when I was a kid I was obsessed with everything to do with sword fighting. Everything to do with sword fighting was super big to me. So then Star Wars became such a big.
Star Wars got some swords.
Yeah, it became a big thing for me, and so like I'm very protective of what I believe Star Wars is, and like I feel like Disney is a company. Yes, they have a lot of money. Yes, they have a lot of good things.
I think it's valid. I also think Star Wars today has a lot of different avenues in which Star Wars is put out, because you got something like Andor, which is like a dry political drama. Acolyte, which I think attempts to be kind of like lore heavy, lightsaber heavy. I think that's trying to capture more of the feel of the prequels.
It's actually not as lightsaber heavy as you think. It's we've only gotten one lightsaber episode. Like it's like in the previous 2 episodes, they were hand-to-hand combat centric and knife fight stuff. There was one scene where lightsaber was brought in, and then so Disney. One of my things I want to address, since we're talking about the state of Star Wars, the coolest thing about Star Wars, like there's many avenues. Some people like the space travel, some people like the space battles, some people like the politics, the lore. Like there's different avenues, right?
Right.
To me, I got into Star Wars for there's a lot of things that I'm interested in, but I loved everything to do with the lightsabers, the lore of the lightsabers,
right?
The lightsaber, the fact that lightsabers are the coolest weapons ever created. Disney has broken lightsabers. A lightsaber, Qui-Gon is the only person to acceptably be a casualty to a lightsaber that does not return or get healed by it. Sabine, in the first episode of Ahsoka, easily now they've taken the back to tank BS stuff from Empire and made it like super fast acting.
No, people love Disney loves the back to tank.
Yep.
Because I remember that was one of my problems with fucking Boba Fett, is he was like fucking back to max, and he was like, I thought that Boba Fett show was fucking shit. I'll complain about all the Disney Plus shows. Everybody gives Boba Fett a pass because there were 2 good episodes where they added the Mandalorian.
I don't give it a pass. Boba Fett's one of the coolest characters. I've read all his books. Tamara Morrison has even said,
how do you make Boba Fett a character that looks super cool, and there's a lot of like books and stuff that make him cool and shit, allegedly. I haven't read
that was even
books.
the thing that was even the thing I said about her.
How do you take Boba Fett and a character that was underutilized, and for 40 years they ramped it up as like, damn, Boba Fett could have been so much more, and then you finally get down to the wire and you're like, we are giving Boba Fett an 8-hour TV show, and it's the most boring shit that has ever come out.
What I don't understand is like,
so fucking
what I don't understand is they're literally doing, if you take the space part out, they're literally doing what the Boba Fett should have been done with DC right now, because everything that Penguin is everything I wanted Boba Fett to be, but in like in the sense of like, obviously Penguin is more in the real world, but like if you put the space part, it should have been Godfather in space. Yes. It should have been people showing up.
I don't even care that if he like barely wears the costume. I don't mind if like last shot of the show he puts the helmet on for a fan service moment. I want, if you're gonna bring Boba Fett back to life and maintain that in the Disney era, and you're gonna bring back Tamara Morrison and everything, I want to. Boba Fett's gotta be Don Corleone, and we gotta have like fucking Bothans and Greedo type people and all those motherfuckers like running around. I just want him like in old
books, like just want him kicking fucking heads, like he's like he's good at, with Vader being dead, full on disintegration. Just like, well, I thought the show was gonna be him like people coming to him for favors, and he just fucking flamethrowing the shit out of people and just like come on.
I think my 2 angles are either Marlon Brando in Godfather, where his ass doesn't leave the seat and he's just like direct. Like, I would love a show just called like Star Wars Bounty Hunters or something, where you have like, you set up like 3 or 4 bounty hunter characters that can be new or established or something, and like Boba Fett is just like the Godfather or something.
And you could have other people,
he like sends them on missions and shit. He's like the
so that's when you bring back some of the other originals, right?
There's some like Hutt children, offspring, like coming at our turf, and because they want a piece of what Jabba used to have.
And there's still quite a bit of good bounty hunters that are alive in that timeline, so you could bring back like, that's when like Dengar and Bosk, like you could get them, popping in for a couple episodes, be like, hey, and I think Aurra Sing might. I'm trying to think. When did Aurra Sing die? Oh, she dead? Okay, then you can't use Aurra Sing.
She died something weird. They made like a joke about it.
I've never understood, like, as much as it's cool fan service, I never understood why Cad Bane was so against, like, I know they did the Clone Wars arc that we never saw, whatever, that they were enemies, but I think it would be so much cooler if all the bounty hunters were just on the same team working for.
As a kid, I was watching Clone Wars week to week when Cad Bane came out.
Yeah.
I could never get into him. I don't know if it was the character design or they built him up. I think part of it was that they built him up so much, and then he was just kind of like, oh, it's Clint Eastwood in Star Wars.
Well, see, that's the thing I love about him is the fact that
fine. I
think it's great that they did that. Like, I think that there's this Star Wars character that's literally Clint Eastwood in Star Wars. I think that's fantastic. Like, I think
they always made him a villain, though. I feel like a character like Cad Bane should be like, one minute he's shooting at Anakin or whoever, and then the next minute he's switching over, he's trying to kill Boba Fett,
Yeah, I just wish he would have just been a bounty hunter. Like, I wish that if he was going to be a bounty hunter, he would have stayed a bounty hunter and stayed on track.
One of my least favorite things in Star Wars is when bounty hunters and smugglers are like one side or the other. I feel like, and this is even a problem in the EU, but I think slightly less so, Star Wars loves to be like bounty hunters or smugglers or whatever. Yeah, I guess so we're kind of approaching the hour. We're at about 50 minutes, so I think I want to bring up the last large topic for us, which I think should be kind of our magnum opus of current state Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think we should talk about the 3 movies that are planned. Or is there 4 movies now?
Well,
Didn't they add a second like Mandalorian era movie?
Yeah, so they got they got Grogu and Mandalorian, which apparently now I think Mandalorian and Grogu is going to come out even before. I forget, is it Grogu and Mando first, or is the Rey movie first? Because the Rey movie kind of was like, let's see, because the Rey movie was kind of delayed. Let's see, Star Wars movies. Because I know one of them they moved. Hold on. Mandalorian and Grogu release date.
Oh, I think you can probably just look up upcoming Star Wars.
Okay, here we go. So May 22nd, 2026, right now.
Right.
So then, where's Rey movie? Upcoming Star Wars movie.
Oh, so like 2 years we're getting Mandalorian and Grogu, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, they said they were going to do that because I heard if they do a 4th season of Mandalorian, I heard they were only going to do yeah. Okay, so according to this, these are the Star Wars upcoming. This is movies and shows project lists right now.
Okay, let's talk about the new stuff. We'll go down the list.
All right, so we had Tales of the Empire in May. That happened. I thought Tales of the Empire had some cool ideas. I thought some of it was bad. What was that one
about? I haven't watched it.
So there was some of it that did with you remember Morgan Elsbeth from The Mandalorian? We got to see her backstory. Oh, yeah. So she was kind of cool. She had the coolest stuff in the arc. Because they got the granddaughter of Bruce Lee in there.
Oh, really?
Playing her just like she was in Ahsoka. And so because of that, I don't know if you noticed it in Ahsoka. They don't know how many episodes you got to see in Ahsoka.
I didn't watch
They brought her into Star Wars using her father's art. So like, she's a witch, but like she knows Jean Kudo, like Terracostian Star Wars.
Oh, that's fun.
So she was kicking fucking Ahsoka's ass, like doing kicks and shit, and like awesome. Nice. And so they gave her kind of her revenge arc, how she becomes who she is. And then the second
we
part
talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, and then the second we talked about Acolyte, and then the second thing that they did in Tales of the Empire, and then it looks like it says I think December is when Skeleton Crew comes out with Spider-Man's John Watts taking that one up.
Oh, so Skeleton Crew is kind of like, it's not like made for kids per se, but it's a little like younger audience.
It's got. So they said it's gonna be a little darker than people realized it. It's got Jude Law in it as playing a Jedi.
That'd be kind of fun.
It's supposed to be kind of described.
When does that take place? Is that like post?
It's in the Mandoverse apparently. It says it's the same time frame as the Mandoverse. Younger than the more adult-oriented Acolyte, a coming-of-age tale directed by Spider-Man No Way Home director John Watts. The plot follows 4 kids who embark on an adventure after making a big discovery on their home planet. Jude Law stars.
See, that might be okay. I think John Watts was really getting following studio mandates on all 3 of his Spider-Man movies, because not only did you have Disney, but you also had Sony, and both of them were giving him notes, and he made those 3 Spider-Man movies work pretty well. I like all 3 of them. I think Far From Home's by far the weakest of the 3.
Yeah, I would say the thing that instantly, like, I think the thing, like, Watts directing, seeing Star Wars, I think will be cool. The most interesting thing, I think, with that whole situation is the fact that you have, I think Jude Law is an incredible actor. I think he can play a great Jedi. So that's the thing when they announced about that show that I'm immediately hyped about.
Right.
Just for the sole reason. I'll watch that just for Jude Law. Just because I think Jude Law is one of those actors that can deliver. Yeah, he's been in crap like Fantastic Beasts and stuff, which is shit.
Yeah, no, Jude Law, he's consistent, though. Okay.
So then next up we got Andor in season 2 in 2025.
I haven't watched all of Andor. I got kind of bored watching like the first 2 episodes.
It's tough.
But
It's kind of okay. It's good, but it's like it's not crazy. And then we kick off 2026 with Ahsoka season 2 is our first project we get.
Oh, I didn't know. I knew that was kind of like in development. I didn't know how far.
Oh, it's confirmed. It's gonna happen. It says Andor's a lot of people liked it. Okay, and then so the first movie is Mando and Grogu. So we'll talk about Mando and Grogu next. So here's what we know. It says The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out May 22nd, 2026. It says The Mandalorian premiered in 2019 on Disney Plus. So the fact that Mandalorian and Grogu is set to hit cinemas 7 years later speaks to the concept's endurance. Pedro Pascal plays a bounty hunter who travels around with a small green little alien. What's not to like? The Mandalorian co-director Jon Favreau will direct. Co-creator will direct. So let's talk about Mando and Grogu. So you've made claims on Marvel that you're just not. You think that the Reed Richards Pedro Pascal thing is bad. Do you
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with Pedro Pascal, but my problem is. The obvious thing is he always plays Papa Pedro, you know what I'm saying? He's always the dad character. So when they're like, here's the Fantastic Four, and it's like, oh, 3 people I've never heard of, and Pedro Pascal playing the resident father of the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, that's
they're not. I don't think they're going to do anything interesting with Pedro. I think I already know what we're getting from Reed Richards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the other 3 actors I've never seen. They could be great, but I look at them and I'm like, yeah, they look like the Fantastic Four. And then there's Pedro Pascal as the only star. Like, I don't know what they're trying to, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they played it too safe.
I agree. I
don't have a problem with because Mandalorian was Pedro's big, he had Narcos, he did a little Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but it was his big break, yeah.
big break. He was C-list, and Mandalorian made him A-list. He is one of the stars in the history of Star Wars who was able to become, like, a very big mainstream Hollywood star, like Harrison Ford too is one of them where like it got them a lot of work. But you even look at Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, they both had to kind of go to other ventures, and Hayden Christensen barely acts, Ewan McGregor is doing fine from himself, but I don't think
went into hiding. He went into hiding until Obi-Wan. Like he legitimately disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, no, he's done like back. 2 or 3 random like real small like religious movies and stuff, but he's really not done much.
Yeah, he went into hiding. So like it's like with the Mando and Grogu stuff. Yeah, like season 3 of Mando wasn't good, but now one thing I will say is the fact that this movie is taking place that we know before the Rey movie. We were told previously the Rey movie was gonna be the first Star Wars movie we're gonna get. This tells me Lucasfilm is showing their belly right here. They know, and Kathleen Kennedy can deny it all other than the Disney execs, they're going to get this Rey movie out. It's going to be released. They know they don't have a win on their hands right now.
No, I think here's the problem with Rey, and we can talk a bit about the Rey movie.
Yeah, we can definitely
Here's the problem. The Rey movie is not, from a box office perspective, if they call it Star Wars Episode 10, it'll do fine. It might get a lot of criticism, but here's the thing. Imagine in like 2012 they made like a new Star Wars movie with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, which obviously they couldn't do because of the story.
Yep.
But we grew up with those kind of being our icons and stuff. I guess we had more consistent content about like Obi-Wan and Anakin because Star Wars wasn't as broad of a net as it is today. But like, if you're like, a lot of kids and stuff are gonna be nostalgic for Rey and Finn and stuff. The problem is a lot of the older fans aren't going to fuck with Rey, and it's because those 8 and 9 especially were pretty low quality films.
Yeah.
And I don't think Rey has to inherently be bad. I think you can save Rey, but what you gotta do is, if you're gonna bring Rey back, first off, you need a really good director, you need good writers, And you need to let them do what they do, but also not do what they do to the extent that they let Rian Johnson. Or at least, I think The Last Jedi would have been a great movie if Rian Johnson had 4 years to cook it up instead of 2.
Do you think that we could see someone with this Rey movie, since we're talking about it, because I feel like this is going to be the one that we have the briefest stuff to say, because we really don't know much.
Right.
Do you think this is going to be a chance of, with this Rey movie, that, just like we talked about with Marvel earlier with the Blade situation, we got this activist director right now, which people do not like.
Right.
Like, did you see the interview where she said, I like something like I like putting men in harm, or so I like doing, like,
right.
she had a very controversial statement.
I mean, I think she can do whatever the fuck she wants, and if the movie's good, then good, and if not, it's gonna fuck up the character of Rey and the entire legacy. And if this is a financial and critical bomb, then they fucked themselves.
I don't think, one thing I would say
Disney
is, like, I don't
taking a big risk, and if they don't pick the right person, maybe they'll switch directors. Maybe the director was taken out of context, or just.
Well, someone I was gonna say, maybe we get a different PR person, like maybe.
I mean, what comes down to it is until we see the film on screen, we're not gonna know. But I think this is gonna make or break Rey's legacy, because if you got one more flop, and they don't want to, like, continue the Rey franchise, it flops, it doesn't do well critically, then you broke it.
I feel like for me, the fact that this Rey movie even exists, I think is sad, because I know that there's lots of people, you could get a good director, you could get a good writer, and you could fix this character. I would have rather us just, since Dave Filoni already existed and made this this concept, and we saw it exclusively in Ahsoka as well as in Rebels.
Right.
If we're gonna invent, even though people have a lot of issues with time travel and everything, and the whole concept of it, if they're gonna invent the world between worlds and do stuff with it, we could have just literally erased this entire timeline and just moved forward so far in the future that none of it matters, right? I mean, the First Order, they're not the Empire, they're just a knockoff version. That's why Palpatine had to do his whole Final Order shit. So just white boy waste that shit. Just get it out of here. Just, like, move forward in the timeline. Let's go 30. And honestly, I've said this before.
Why don't they just draw the line and say nothing happened for 200 years, and then this is the new Star Wars timeline, and the Sith are back and the Jedi, blah blah blah.
Well, I think what's messed up
Republic except forward.
Well, what I think is we need to go forward. We need to go further in the future where these characters are not, because, the best characters are already dead. Kylo Ren's gone. They're not going to bring him back unless they do something stupid.
They
like
might.
that.
I mean, they brought Darth Maul back. They bring him.
Yeah, they could bring him back. They could.
Characters come back. I think, like, especially Kylo Ren could have, like, because didn't he just, like, fall down an endless pit or something?
But Adam Driver has been very, like, vocal about, like,
that's true.
I don't know. I mean, I actually was starting to believe he was going to be Reed Richards for a while. Like, I thought that he was going to join the other team.
I think that would have been more interesting than Pedro.
Yeah. So I think for me, with the Rey movie, I think the biggest issue we run into, I would have definitely clean slated it. I don't think we need a Rey movie, but we're gonna get one, so we just gotta deal with it. And I just hope it's a good movie.
I'm not against it. I'm gonna stick away from it because I feel like a lot of the times, like, people in these Star Wars movies just say really dumb shit, and, like, I try to ignore the press and just watch it. Like, I don't fucking care if you're the dumbest person of all time, and she says, I hate men. I think they should all get castrated and put in camps. I don't care. I don't care. Say that shit. But if you make a shit show, I'm gonna call it a shit show. If you make a good show, I'll call it a good show.
Yeah, the thing that
pretty simple.
The thing that I don't like about the whole Rey movie idea is that there is a Rey movie in existence, because I think that Rey as a character is the worst character from those movies, and I think that what you could do, like.
I think Rey had potential in the first movie and then went nowhere.
And, like, one movie, I'm sorry, you could get the best writer in the world. They're not gonna fix Rey in 1-2 hour, or maybe it's even an hour and 32 minutes or some shit. We don't know how long it's gonna be, but, like,
it'll probably be long as fuck. It's gonna be like 3 hours long.
Fucking 3 hours. Like the thing that makes me upset is, you know what they're gonna do with this movie? They're gonna give Rey the role that Luke Skywalker had from the EU, that people wanted to see Luke have in Last Jedi. And that's going to make me mad, because the thing that I'm struggling with from a story standpoint is, you can put the name Skywalker on you all you want. with Rise of Skywalker, we learned it very apparently, and you can put any type of writers, any type of retcons you want to do, go ahead and do it. But to me, in my brain, it is engraved. To me, I don't care how many times you put it on your speeder license plate, your name, whatever it is, you are Rey Palpatine. That Skywalker thing didn't happen. So, for me, the way that I see it, if she's teaching students in this new movie, and she is like, what they're going to do is they're going to make her seem like she's the most perfect person in the world that can't that can't do anything wrong. It's like the best, even though she has very little Jedi training. They're going to make her seem like she's the best Jedi ever, and like super powerful and super wise and wisdom based. If we're gonna get a Rey movie at all, I would go for conflicted Rey. I would go for Rey's teaching a student. Now, one thing I would hope they would do, but I'm not. I don't think they'll do this because I think I have no faith in this movie. Is I would love it if Rey's darkness affected her students, and her students stood against her. Like they see her as a fraud because they sense the Palpatine.
Yeah, maybe
she gets mad.
They get a hit. I mean, that might be an interesting argument.
Like, I would like to, like, I know Disney wants to bury the Palpatine angle, but I'd love it if she, like, force electrocuted one of her kids when she got mad by accident and just, like...
fried his ass.
Yeah, and then just, like, and then it's one of the students tries to stand against her and just... And then they become the villain. And then maybe they make that interesting... Like, they could make this interesting, they could do it. It just is... Will they? Is the question. I
don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But I want to go back to the Mando and Grogu thing, because that was kind of our predominantly first movie. So, I have a pitch for you for this movie.
Okay,
so,
let's hear it.
Season 3 didn't work.
No.
One of the things I wanted for the finale of Season 3, because one of the big cliffhangers they had was that Mando got captured by Moff Gideon and his thugs. And I was like, okay, well, who's going to go rescue Mando, man? Like, so there was this whole, like, because of the whole, I think still to this day, because of how bad, but obviously all of Lucasfilm is responsible for the failures of Book of Boba Fett that we were talking about earlier. But I think one thing that is abundantly clear, Pedro Pascal owes Cameron Morrison one for going in there and taking over 2 episodes of his show, and really he made the two best moments of.
I think Disney just owes.
Yeah, so
Boba Fett a fucking retry show.
So what I would do is
start from give him a season 2 where he doesn't have to start, and they felt obligated to give us 5 episodes. And I think they could set that up here. But what I want is I want this movie to be Grogu and Mando will make money on its own. But if you're gonna make money, you're gonna make waves. You're gonna make this the first Disney Star Wars movie. You got to go out with a bang. Right.
You make this like Star Wars Avengers or Star Wars like almost Expendables, right? So you bring in a team. So you have Mando, you have Boba come in, because Tamron would want to be there, I think. And then you got someone like Moff Gideon come back, whatever you got to do. You got your villain, you got your angle, and you just have a badass adventure. Mando and Grogu team up with a team of bounty hunters, and there hasn't been any bounty hunter movies ever. So like I think a bounty hunter movie, as good as a TV show is, I think it would work. We had a smuggler movie now. People liked Solo as a smuggler movie, so maybe a bounty hunter movie would be kick-ass. Like. But I want, like, for me, honestly, even if it wasn't a total ensemble, if you want to pitch me a good bounty hunter movie, I just want Mando and Boba kicking ass together. I think that would be the sell of a movie. Like, if you want to do something that people would like, I think that would sell it. But I think, like, I hope that Favreau has the strengths, and, you know, he did such a good job with Iron Man and stuff. Like, I think he could probably deliver some sort of ensemble type movie. I think he could do a good job with a team of characters, and I think that would be fun. So... I'd like to see.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
I'd like to see that. I'd say out of all the projects we know of that are confirmed, because I trust Favreau more than anyone else at Lucasfilm. I trust Favreau more than Filoni. I think Mando and Grogu has a good chance of being good. I think there's a lot of the Disney problems, but Mando and Grogu it's their first movie, but it's also their safest movie.
Right.
Because there's a lot of mistakes with Book of Boba Fett, but I think that Jon Favreau can still deliver something good with Mando and Grogu. I think there's enough. You're gonna get you can bring the kiddos in because you can get people that want to see Grogu, their little stuffed Grogus and whatever, and that's gonna make a lot of money.
Right.
But they also could give us a good story and give some homage to the fans that like the Disney Plus show and give some cool moments. Now,
I think it also should stand on its own a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the shows are great; those gotta be prequels.
I want it to stand on its own in the sense of a solo adventure.
What I am worried about, and I think this is a big problem with Marvel, and I hope Star Wars avoids it, but you have Marvel, especially like the Marvels, for example, where you have to watch the prerequisite Disney Plus shows, otherwise you're like, oh, missed that part, because I didn't watch like Secret Invasion or any of that shit, so I was confused as fuck at some points in the Marvels, and I don't want the Mandalorian to be like that, where like it like opens on a old plot point. Like, it has to be its own story. If it's gonna be a movie, if you're switching, mediums, you have to make it its own story to an extent. Like, I'm fine with like him being like, oh, Boba Fett, I know you from when we were in the Mandalorian show together. You know what I'm saying?
I think that works. I think that's totally something doable that I think that could work. Now, the next thing we got to talk about, because I think the Mando and Grogu situation is pretty
right.
It's pretty out there. I think we both just want a good movie. Well, and this could change, but from what it says next is Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie is still in development, and it's supposed with
Good.
Mando and Grogu's first Star Wars movie in cinemas since 2019. Taika Waititi's unnamed Star Wars movie is set to be the second movie that is released. The Thor Ragnarok.
I gotta hear the concept before I can comment much, and here's why. Taika Waititi, Thor: Love and Thunder is one of the most ratchet shit in the entire MCU. Thor Ragnarok has got to be in my top 10 favorites, though, and I like Jojo Rabbit, What We Do in the Shadows. I think Taika Waititi's got a lot of good stuff. He's typically a really funny, good guy. So it depends on the concept. Like, I don't want Taika Waititi to do a world-ending. I think Thor was a weird choice for Taika Waititi, especially when you get to Thor 2.
I think he needs to get like a. I think he needs to get a project that plays on the comedy, something that plays to his strengths, something weird,
Here's what I think. This is my opinion. Most Star Wars movies these days are made on what? $200 million?
Yep.
Cut his budget in half. Give him $100 million, and maybe, okay, here's an idea. Have you seen like those old movies where you got like a group of people like under siege from a larger army?
Yep.
Maybe something like that. I guess that'd be kind of Seven Samurai like. But I mean, like, something kind of goofy. Like, maybe make just like a goofy Star Wars Western. I'd be fine if it wasn't. I think Taika Waititi would try and fail to make something if he was to make like a full Star Wars movie. But I think if he has kind of a weird concept movie, I'm with it, because I like Taika Waititi.
So you think that if he does something cool?
Yeah, Thor 4 was strike one, for me. But I think he could recover because most of his work to me is pretty good. I think it depends what the angle is and what the idea is. I'm not 100% counting him out off of Thor 4 alone, though Thor 4 was fucking dog shit.
Yeah, I think
if that Star Wars movie turns out like shit.
And I don't know if you read I don't know if you know the backstory behind Thor 4, but when he did Thor 4, there was all these BS claims that he like had a super good script and had super big plans. I heard Thor 4 was only a paycheck for him. He had no desire to write anything good for Thor.
No, I think he did his Thor movie. He had fun with it, and that was Thor Ragnarok. And then he probably signed a 2-film deal and thought, how many of my projects can I finance making Thor 4? And what? Fair enough.
Like every decision he made, like even when there was goofy decisions in Ragnarok, there was story reasons for it, and it made sense. Where like with this movie, I think that he legitimately just piss poor, just did everything stupid that he could. And just wanted it to be stupid and dumb,
right?
And just
between Thor, he made Jojo Rabbit, which he did really good on.
Yeah,
he's got a couple movies in development, and he was also executive producing the show spin-off to one of his previous movies, What We Do in the Shadows, which is one of my favorite TV shows. If you haven't seen it,
so we don't know too much about that. So now we got so we just say Taika Waititi question mark. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So now we got.
I want to see the concept before I make a judgment.
How long would you say, because it is the second movie that we find out we get a concept for? Like, when do you think? Do you think they'll move that movie, or do you think they'll get it ready?
I think it's either going to get canceled or in the next Star Wars Celebration we're going to get something.
That makes sense. So
that's kind of where I'm at, because that's been floating around for a while.
So
depending on the point where it's make or break.
So depending on when that release movie is, what we know now is after that movie, if that movie comes out in 2026, the same as the Grogu and Mandu movie, we now jump to 2027, and we get Dawn of the Jedi with Logan director James Mangold. Now, it's funny that people always bring up Logan for him, because you know what a lot of people don't talk about that I think is kind of funny, considering they're made by the same company, and I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy had stuff to do with it. We got to remember that James Mangold directed
the really bad
Indy 5. Yes.
I mean, Indy 5 was competently enough directed. It just had a really shitty story, and
well, let me ask you
no one
this.
should have really tackled it.
Is Kathleen Kennedy the reason for that movie being bad, or do you think James Mangold has actually lost his touch in some of his directing?
I'm gonna go. Here's what happened. Kathleen Kennedy. I think Kathleen Kennedy gets too much creative hate, and here's the thing. I think she probably does. But what she is she's some old lady on an iPad. She doesn't fucking care about Star Wars or Indiana Jones. She's a businesswoman. She looks at the numbers and says, if we make a numbered Star Wars entry after 3 years, enough hype time will build up that we can make money. And from there, she hires whatever fucking creative. She doesn't care. As long as they do good, she might get... So I think... I don't think so. I think she hired James Mangold, who thought he could do a good Indiana Jones movie. But then the problem is, you have an 85-year-old You have an 85-year-old fucking Harrison Ford, who was probably into the idea, and I think they had a decent script idea, but Indiana Jones, and this is the problem with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, is... Harrison Ford was too old to keep up the energy. He was kind of able to do it in Crystal Skull, which had a worse script than 5. 5 had a better script. The problem is, now Harrison Ford is an additional 15 years older than Crystal Skull, where he was already too old to play Indiana Jones. So I think that's the problem. I think what they should have done is probably reboot it, which I think would have ended up like dog shit. But I think for Indiana Jones, they should take like a James Bond approach, where it's like, you know, maybe we just recast, honestly. But I think they were scared to do that after Solo, because Solo was commercially less successful than a lot of the Star Wars, and I think that was blamed a lot on Alden as Han.
Which I think it's sad that too many people shit on that movie, because I think that movie's pretty good, actually.
I think recasting should be fine in Star Wars, so long as it doesn't affect too much the story, because I was able to kind of get into, okay, this is a Han Solo, it's not Harrison Ford, he doesn't look like Harrison Ford, he's really his own entity, but frankly I don't care. This is something else that happened with Han Solo at a different time, because like Ewan McGregor, everybody loves Ewan McGregor. I think he's on most people's top 10 favorite Star Wars character, like actors and characters. And people didn't shit on Ewan when he took over for Alec Guinness, who was also great in Star Wars. So, like, what? I don't know. But I think it's a different era. It's a different ball game these days.
So I feel like with this Star Wars movie, the thing that I think we run into issues with is, you know, like you said, you know, maybe he could have done good work with Indiana Jones, but some of his movies, he's a good director, but I think that maybe he's not a name that should be brought in. Well, it's kind of hard to say, because I
think he's like Taika Waititi, where he's got one big strike, but it's like, oh, I've seen him do really good stuff too. So,
but I don't want to count him out yet, because he's also working for DC right now,
right?
Because he's gonna do Swamp Thing.
Yeah, so, I think he'd be great for Swamp Thing.
So let's say this. Maybe the way I look at it is, I want to say, unless I can be proven wrong, I love the idea of an origin of the Jedi. Like, if they're gonna focus on the thing they teased with the stone in Last Jedi, and we're gonna meet the Prime Jedi, like the very first, like Snoke-looking Jedi, like that they showed. I'm all for an origin about the Jedi. If the right people understand the lore of the Force, everyone's the care is taken, everything is cool. Maybe we get our first ever, like, what was the first version of a lightsaber like? What's the first fight like? Like, what's, like, who were the first original, maybe not Sith, but like Darksiders that appeared, like kind of like stuff like that has my interest. But I don't know if James Mangold is the guy to bring that stuff out.
I think he might. I mean, it depends again. It's so hard to judge something like that without a trailer because I mean we're breaking new ground here.
Right. It's just gonna be tough to see.
I will say, like I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, I didn't love Dawn of the Jedi, the book that is is the EU version of this concept of like the ancient Jedi. I don't know. I mean, I want to see what's up. I think it could be really good. It could be really fucking bad. It's something where it's like I have no idea. It's really hard because what I think they're going for is like Game of Thrones, Star Wars is what I'm guessing is what they want to do with Dawn of the Jedi.
And that could also be a bad thing.
That could either be the worst shit ever or kind of cool. Well, Lord of the Rings, I think it's gonna be like more fantasy, like old timey heavy. We'll see though. So is that the last one that's announced so far?
No, because we still have. So we still have. It doesn't say it on this list, but I haven't heard otherwise. So I believe that we still have the Dave Filoni, quote unquote, Avengers Endgame movie to tie everything up, which we don't know for sure. Like it has never been titled Heir to the Empire, but I think we all assume it's going to be Heir to the Empire just because of the way that he's built it up.
Right.
So. We talked about this a little bit, but as you've read more of the Heir to the Empire stuff, this is the one I want to spend the most time on the podcast. So I think we would, because this comes from source material from a book, if done right, we have legitimately the most to talk about with this movie. So what I want from this movie is, I do want, if I'm honest, I love the idea in Star Wars. Well, it won't be the exact same as an Avengers movie. I love the idea of bringing different characters together in like a team ensemble against a bigger threat. And what I would want from this is, now the one thing that needs to happen for this movie to be successful, I know people are going to change it because I know Dave Filoni loves Ahsoka and loves to put Ahsoka front and center and everything.
Yeah. This
movie only works, and I don't care what anyone says, and I know Disney's gonna bat their eyes at me when I say this because CGI Luke won't work for this. It's time to recast Luke Skywalker. Luke needs to be the main character of this movie. It needs to be Heir to the Empire.
Right.
They need to bring in Mara Jade. We need Mara Jade and Luke. I need both of them in this movie.
The problem is then you gotta convolute the fuck out of how Mara Jade, where the fuck she is in the sequel.
Well, here's what you say, right? As much as it's different, and Disney won't word it this way, but this is how I would word it. That Luke Skywalker dick just wasn't that good, and so. And so she went on to another Force user, someone that's just.
Why not just make her? Why not make her more? Why not make Kylo more evil? And maybe they just neglected to mention it in the movie. But Luke's wife Mara gets killed by fucking Kylo, and then you can retroactively try to make him more cool.
Or you need someone that is going to be a threat for the movie, imposing to serve to serve Thrawn, right?
Right.
What you could do, maybe the reason we don't see her is because she was out there still alive, but the tables have turned. Because I think what Star Wars really needs right now is we need better villains, but we definitely need, because people get a bad opinion with me when it comes to Marvel and Star Wars. They think I hate female characters, but my problem is I hate bad written female characters. So to me, Ventress is a great example of a badass evil villain character done great.
Right.
There are great female villains out there when they're utilized well. Kind of dig the idea of Mara Jade going up against Luke Skywalker being a baddie. I mean, Shin was kind of cool.
Mara Jade in the book, she's the Emperor's assistant. She was like an assassin for the Emperor.
So let's tweak that story, right? So instead of after Palpatine, she also works for Thrawn. Or maybe in this story, she didn't work for Palpatine. Because we've seen all the Palpatine stuff that happened, right? So maybe this entire time, she's just been working with Thrawn. And so maybe it's more believable because Thrawn has all these resources, all these different things, and they give some backstory to her that makes her because we need interesting characters. We need a story. We need to see Mara Jade. I think she still needs to be a part of the canon. But maybe we don't need to necessarily tie her to Luke. Maybe she's interesting on her own. And
Yeah.
maybe the thing that happens is just that she's just a badass assassin.
Yeah, I mean that's
Cast
pretty
an
much
action,
her character.
cast an actress that can kick ass, do some badass martial arts moves, rocking the
I mean,
purple saber.
Her whole like arc in Heir to the Empire is she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill Luke, and then it turned out she was like possessed by the Emperor partially. It's kinda
I mean,
weird.
we saw
It's
this.
cool, though.
We saw the splash that made when Luke was CGI'd came up in.
I think
people thought
you
that when
could
Luke
pretty easily make her like an assassin villain.
Yeah.
I mean, but the problem is, I mean, they really want to get rid of Talon Card, who kind of ties her into the story originally. I don't think they'll ever touch Talon Card. Why would they? Maybe they will, and it'll just excite the 3 autistic people in the world like me.
I mean, I feel like they could do something like that. They'll find a way to make it work, but I think you could do
Talon Card, my favorite EU character. I don't give a fuck. He's the best.
You love that
Just
character,
smuggler guy. He's just smuggler guy. He's awesome though.
Yeah, there are some.
Because
cool
he like after Mara Jade kind of like goes rogue because she like basically has to go into hiding after the Emperor dies. He's like, I'll take you on as my like assistant basically. And then him and Mara become homies, and Luke's like, you can be like a fucking Jedi and shit, dog. And then they eventually start fucking.
That's pretty interesting. I feel like the way that you look at this, like you could totally have, like you have her in it, be great. Maybe you don't need it, but I think it'd be cool because she's a cool character. And I think it'd be cool to see her explored. But yeah, I think it's cool that that's an EU character that you really like. So it'd be cool to see. Maybe if they don't use them, maybe they could at least reference him or do something. I think my biggest thing is like I want a Star Wars movie where like look, they got to fix Thrawn. They can probably fix Thrawn eventually, give it to the right writer. Hopefully Dave Filoni takes this movie and finally gets his footing back because I think he needs to earn some respect back. What I really hope for in this movie is because of what we got with The Mandalorian, I think that people got so excited in that moment in Mando Season 2, seeing CGI Luke walk to the hallway and go crazy.
Right.
A real Luke Skywalker, a real prime Luke Skywalker, kicking all sorts of ass in a movie where he's the star again, is what people want in Star Wars right now. I think that would be something that would make so much money.
But here's the problem. Kathleen Kennedy, as I said, I don't think Kathleen Kennedy... I think a lot of people...
Luke be the star again?
No, I think a lot of people think the problem is Kathleen Kennedy has got all these creative opinions and wants to push an agenda. I don't think she fucking cares about any of that shit.
Right.
She cares about the dollar. She cares about the almighty dollar.
Well,
and here's the problem.
She knows she'll make money.
The problem with making Luke the main character is nobody went to see the Han Solo movie. The fact that the Han Solo movie is like the embarrassment of the Star Wars franchise. I love the Han Solo movie. I think it's one of the best thing Disney made. But it made no money in China, which is what they were banking on.
But the reason why that movie failed so epically, right, is not just because of the quality of the movie, the issues with the movie. The reason that movie suffered is because when they released those movies, they were in the plan at Disney where they wanted Star Wars movies to come right after each other.
Yep.
Right?
So that's the problem.
So the problem is because they released...
It came 5 months after the Last Jedi, which people didn't like. It made a lot of money, but then people were like, I don't really want to watch this weird fucking recasted Han Solo. Which I also think Disney never tried to give the audience enough.
But that's the
people couldn't buy Han Solo without Harrison Ford.
They just didn't market it in the way where they made it made sense. But I feel like because Star Wars was in such disarray from the garbage nonsense that was Last Jedi, I think if you waited long enough and you marketed it properly, I think Solo would have worked.
No, I agree. I think Solo is a great movie.
And I think with this whole Luke Skywalker thing, the thing I think that they could pull off here...
But Kathleen Kennedy learned the wrong lesson, and she said, oh, this movie didn't make that much money, so recasting the characters is bad.
Yeah, but I don't think that she...
Which I think a lot of people have said, dude.
Yeah, but I don't think that I don't think the recast is the issue of it.
No, I don't think the recast is the issue. I'm saying that's the hurdle that as fans we have to get over, and Kathleen Kennedy would have to get over to recast Luke. I'd be happy if they want to recast Luke for like an Heir to the Empire movie, that'd be fine. But you'd have to recast the whole Falcon cast, And also, my other problem with Heir to the Empire, I don't know how you like fit in Ahsoka and Ezra and the Mandalorian, frankly.
Well, I still think that with the Ezra stuff, I still think that Ezra should have, and I stand by it, especially after his time with Maul and Rebels. I think it's stupid that when they revealed him coming back in Ahsoka, that he was a good guy.
Right.
I wanted Ezra to become a Sith. I thought Ezra going to the dark side, because if you look at his past in Rebels, with Kanan is a Jedi when he's alive, working really through him. Even when Kanan's alive, when he works with Maul a little bit, there's that intrigue with the hologram, all the anger from what happened to his parents, the Empire. You can feel that there's something there, and I think it would serve a much better character if he was a Sith.
No,
so I think there's enough gray there that I think he would be interesting.
I mean, especially since they had him kind of working with Maul a lot.
Yep, but I think the best character by far, which I don't know if they'll include him in Heir to the Empire because he would be really old, probably older, maybe even older than Luke at this point. But I'd love to see him in some sort of Disney Star Wars project that I wanted to cover. Is the best character in Disney Star Wars right now, that is the only one that's getting good stories right now, despite it's coming from a video game, is what they're doing with freaking Cal Kestis is amazing right now. So in Jedi Survivor, they set him up as the perfect character because he's not doing Jedi in the traditional way that you're seeing Jedi. He wields the dark side and the light side. He's just like Mace. He's wielding a purple lightsaber as his primary lightsaber, even though the games market him as blue. After the second, I think that will change after the second when they make the third game because And hopefully when they finish, hopefully this third game is the last game. And they'll just start putting him into movies and shows after. Because we need him in live action. I know the actor looks like him. I know he wants to play him. Because I did his face on him and everything. I think why they need this to happen so bad is, as a character, he brings so much amazing stuff to this. Like, a Jedi that could use both the light and the dark side would make such an interesting dynamic. Would make so many cool possibilities. And, opportunities we never got to really see with Mace. Because Mace, was awesome, but we're probably going to lose out on a lot of cool Samuel Jackson things. So I think Cal Kestis would be awesome. I think you could see some great things with Cal Kestis.
I think that'd be good.
Do you want to see Cal Kestis do some?
Yeah, no, I like Cal Kestis. I don't think he's got like a ton of character in the games, but the point is here just kind of Cal Kestis. I think he's cool though. I love the Jedi Survivor game, so I feel like giving him a chance in like a real show. And I've seen that guy in other stuff, and
he's a great actor.
He's a good actor, so I think if you wanted to bring him in for like a TV show or something that ties into Jedi or something, I'd be fine with it.
They could do something,
or have him pop up in something, age him up a bit with makeup or.
Well, they could easily age him up. I just wonder, do you think what age would he be?
Because Fallen Order takes place like 5 or 6 years after Revenge of the Sith. So he'd be probably, I'd say he's about 14 to 18 years older than Luke, I would say. 14 to 20 years older than Luke.
So that'd be interesting then.
Because what was he? He was like 5 or 6 during Order 66. Like, he was still pretty young. So, I think he might have been like 10. So, if he was 10 during Order 66, by the time we're looking at like Mandalorian and shit, he'd probably be like 45, 50. But I feel like you could probably just like use prosthetics or CGI to age the actor up like 20 years, add some wrinkles or something to him if you wanted, or you could probably just set something during the time of the Empire. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of Cal Kestis in whatever form. Although I think there's a chance at the end of the game series he might die or something, since we haven't really seen much of him.
I think there's still Jedi out there that Disney keeps toying with that are still very much alive.
Right.
So I think that he could just be in other stories, and they've just got to wait till his story unfolds.
The problem is, I feel like any Jedi who has survived from prequels to post-OT, you got to do an ass pull on. Because in Empire, you have Luke saying that, or Yoda saying that Luke's the last Jedi. and I think that causes issues. So they have like Ezra's in the other dimension or whatever, and Ahsoka's technically not a Jedi anymore, and this and that.
They kind of have stated that that's very much the case.
I mean, they always feel like they need a reason to make Luke the only Jedi during the OT, which is why I think that's part of the problem with sticking in like that OT and immediately past OT era. That's why I'm kind of fine with like the High Republic, because if you want to do Jedis, it's kind of hard to do that in the OT era. You kind of need to either do stuff in the prequel era or way before or after.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends how they look at it, right? You could do it in a lot of different ways. I think that they could definitely find a way to make it work. It just depends how they make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to wait and see what that brings.
Right, for sure.
And what we feel. I do think that they need to use some of these characters that are better, that Disney has created, to do some really incredible storytelling with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll come together eventually. But anyways, I think that's about all for today. We did about an hour and a half. Joe, you got any upcoming Star Wars content on your channel, or any ideas?
Well, yeah, like I said, I'll be covering the Acolyte to the end, and when I finish all the episodes, I'll give a much more in-depth version of every episode of the show. I'm going to analyze everything, all the details on my problems with it, where I think I'm eventually going to... It's going to take me a long time to put it together. It'll probably be one of my longest videos. I want to rank all Star Wars movies and TV shows all together in one thing. But one thing that's going to be really hard with it is including placement for the droid animated and the Ewok stuff. But I'll find a way to do it. I just have to count out everything and just rank my like of things. It's going to be really interesting because people know me as a prequels guy, so Revenge of the Sith and Empire will probably be up there in the top content because that's what I like. But then you're going to see things like animated shows I think will surprise people. I think I'm always going to love Clone Wars. I think Clone Wars has done a lot of good things with it. And then I'm working on doing audible read-through of Dark Disciple for you guys.
Right.
Where I'm going to do a video where I'm reading chapters by different days and we'll just read through it together. So that will be kind of fun. I'm working on that. Right now, there's not a lot happening in Star Wars, so, there's ideas I want to work on. I've been trying to do, what if videos, what if series. I have a new one out there if you guys haven't seen it. There's one where I talk about what if Dooku had taken up Anakin. So, basically, Anakin and Dooku, it's a whole video where Anakin and Dooku end up, so instead of Anakin chopping off Dooku's head, Anakin spares Dooku, and they go up and take on Palpatine.
Oh, yeah.
And it would fundamentally change the rest of Star Wars because Palpatine would not make it to Return of the Jedi. Because I think Dooku and Anakin alone, as powerful as Palpatine is, I think they would take him.
Right.
I think we've seen Anakin could throw him in the well by himself. I think the two of them would take him out.
Oh, yeah.
Very well. And I want to eventually start making my script for, I'm doing a Star Wars fan film called Masters of Terras Kasi based off the old video game. You remember the old...
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, the fighter, right? Mortal Kombat type stuff. But the idea is, in Solo Star Wars Story, which we were just talking about, Woody Harrelson's character sees Kira dispatch all these guys, and then he's like, what was that? And she says Terras Kasi, which she learned from Maul. I want to do a bigger expansion on unarmed and lightsaber combat for Star Wars, because I don't feel like there's enough of it, and I think it could be more. Speaking of Kira, not sure if you're aware of this. Also, when it comes out, I think it comes out in August. I'll be doing playthroughs for Outlaws.
Oh yeah,
the new game. She's in Outlaws. They're covering Crimson Dawn as a threat.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Because it's apparently, from what we understand, it's between Empire and. So I think it's in between the OG, the original trilogy, this Outlaws game.
Oh, nice.
So it sounds like there's going to be some fun smuggles of Jabba's in the game. I think Lando might appear if they choose to choose more legacy characters. But also, fun fact for you, and speaking of games, I don't remember what month it comes out. There's a remaster coming out for the Jango Fett Bounty Hunter game.
Oh, yeah.
And in this remaster, you get to apparently there's a free DLC in there where you can rock the game as Boba Fett.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of cool that they're doing that. I'm actually way more excited for that remaster than I've been for any other Star Wars game. I'm also going to be pretty soon. I got to see when I'm able to buy the game, but I want to start streaming Jedi Academy.
Oh, yeah.
In my community a lot because I love Jedi Academy, and I made some cool custom characters in there, and so that's definitely something I'm looking forward to, going through a lot of the awesome retro games. But yeah, Star Wars is kind of hard right now because it's I don't have a lot of love for it, so it's I'm always going to want to talk about Star Wars, but I have to have passion for it. Probably be doing a lot of rankings. So probably a lot of I've wanted to get it done for a long time, but I've needed to put down the list and look over all of them because I want to do 2 different lists. I don't think it's fair to have animated duels and live action lightsaber duels on the same thing because there's so many different things you can do with the animated. So I want to do like best animated lightsaber duels and then best live action lightsaber duels. So I think they need their own lists. I think you need to rate them on the animation and how cool they look, because it's not fair to put people that actually work hard on the actual real choreography and train in martial arts up against someone that stood in a soundstage and did some cool little computer animation. So eventually I'll have my lightsaber duel ranking on there, and it will be movies and shows, so it will be like anything that's live action, so it will be like stuff from Obi-Wan, The Acolyte, as few as there are still lightsaber duels, so stuff like that will be in there. And I've actually been waiting for one more Star Wars show to come out to kind of give me a better scope of where I'm at. I still think that, and I've said it before, I still don't think any of the lightsaber duels are at the level of the prequels. I still think the prequels and maybe the Return of the Jedi fight are probably still the best in Star Wars right now. I think don't like anything in Obi-Wan. I don't like. I think there was one duel I liked in Ahsoka. I think one of them I thought was decent. Not enough to be like it's amazing. It's up here with the best of the best. But I think my list will be surprising because even my favorite Star Wars movie, like Revenge of the Sith, I love that movie. But there's lightsaber duels in that movie that even I don't think are like top tier. Like I follow Nick Gillard's YouTube channel, and I saw some of the stuff that even George Lucas cut down. There's original versions of the Palpatine fight with Mace Windu and everyone was gonna be way better. It's gonna be way better. And we didn't see the best version of the Dooku and Anakin fight. Have you seen the behind the scenes reels of the Dooku and Anakin fight?
No, I saw some.
Oh, he was gonna like kick him off like shit. Like he's supposed to like basically stab him through the eye, and like it's supposed to be crazy. Like there's one scene where he does a block and like a lot more karate martial arts.
You should just give it Anakin a fucking iPad.